the SpinSheet Happy Hour. Today we're going to be talking about tips for crewing on other people's boats. But before we get started, it is my job to thank tonight's sponsor, who is Defender. Now, Defender, if you've been to their website, you will know that they pretty much have everything under the sun there. It's an incredible site. You could spend hours on there. And they called when they said they're going to sponsor this show. I said that's great. And they said, Chris, we've got a special. If we have a special deal, would you mind mentioning it? And I said, no, I'll send it my way. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. Their special deal. Let me just bring this up real quick. So we all know B&G. Great. They make great products. You've probably admired somebody's array on their boat or something like that. But they said, Chris, we are actually selling the Vulcan 12 chart plotter, with a huge discount. And I said, all right. So they sent it to me. I looked at it. Normally it sells for $10.99. $19.99, and they marked it down to $10.99. And then I saw the fact that there's a $200 mail-in rebate. And I actually picked up the phone and called them and said, is that right? Do you get the $200 rebate with this discount? And they said, yes, absolutely. So that means you're going to get the Vulcan 12, that's this one, for $8.99. Not a bad deal. And when you think about it, this is a 12-inch display, touchscreen interfaces, built-in GPS antenna. It's waterproof. You can look at it in the sun. The screen is fixed up for that. You can't beat this deal. Honestly, I looked at it and I said, that's an awesome deal. Thanks for passing it along. The only catch is you have a week. So if you get a chance, look in the comments here, and you will see a live link there that'll take you to the page. And by the way, you don't just need, you can do the Vulcan 12, that's fine, but there are a lot of extras you can pile on there, and all of them are discounted, and all of them have that $200 rebate. So anyway, kind of goes without saying, check it out. It's pretty darn cool. It's a great deal. If you're in the market for a new chart plotter, I would check that out at defender.com. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our editor extraordinaire. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Hey, Malls.
Hey, Sharp. How's it going? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Yeah.
This was supposed to be the big week that Wednesday night racing started, but, was blowing dogs off chains on Wednesday. They already had to cancel it. So anyway, it's still exciting. We're right here. We're right on the edge of all this excitement. There was racing happening last weekend, and people are getting their boats out, and I don't know. I'm all fired up. I'll be happy when it's 10 degrees warmer, but I try not to, rush it, because the next thing you know, you're sweating.
Yeah.
So,
and
anyway, it's a happy spring day.
Mother Nature threw us a curveball this week. It got a lot colder than I thought it was. And of course, Wednesday was ridiculous with the winds, but
yeah, I know, really.
Yeah. So, seriously. But hey, it's what we get. It's what happens. So
it's happy hour. What are you drinking over there?
Changing it up a little bit. Little wine. White wine.
Oh, how civilized. Little vino.
Actually.
Little white wine.
Yeah. I just thought, what the hell?
I still have that whatever fancy flavored ginger ale I bought. Blood orange with Meyer lemon ginger ale. And I'm actually mocktailing it tonight, because I have a thing to do after this. And so anyway, you're very civilized. I'm drinking something without alcohol in it. You're drinking a little light white wine. So anyway, cheers. Happy Friday.
It's wine out of a box, but that's how
did you have to admit that you could have just played it all like, oh yes, of course, we've been to the vineyard. And
don't judge.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little judgy. That's just who I am. So But anyway, we have a great program in store tonight. We have Jonathan Bartlett from North Sales is going to join us, and you know, it's hard not to sing Jonathan's praises when you've written a lot of articles about racers on the Chesapeake. So we used to have a column that we called the Chesapeake Racer Profile, and we kind of put it to bed for a while. We ought to bring it back. It was always a fun page in the magazine. So I've interviewed a ton of racing sailors over the years, and I have to say, one of the questions I always ask them, and we would ask them, like, what's your favorite thing in your gear bag? What's your favorite jacket? What's your favorite race? And all this sort of thing. But I would always ask, who's your mentor? And I heard the name Jonathan Bartlett from so many racing sailors in Chesapeake country that are like, Jonathan Bartlett must just be the man. And he's never going to tell you he's the man, but just so you know, he's kind of the man. And he's on the show tonight, and he's going to share some of what he knows about crewing on other people's boats, some good tips on how to be better crew, and some tips on how to help your crew be a little better too.
Cool. Well, I want to press the button and bring him on.
All right, let's bring him on.
Dun, dun, dun. There we go.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Jonathan.
How are you guys?
Welcome back to the SpinSheet Happy Hour. It's been a while since we've had you on the show, so it's good to have you back.
Nice to be back. It's been since last summer. Lots of sailing in between now and then.
Yeah.
You brought up the word mentor a few seconds ago, and it brought back the thought. I lost a sailing mentor this week, and someone who was hugely instrumental for me. And if I have a second, I'd like to just bring up Stovey Brown's name, and anyone on the online tonight who knew Stovey knew he was really the beginner, the starter of organized junior sailing in Annapolis Harbor at Severn Sailing. And he was the guy who wrote all the training books that we all followed when we became teachers over there. So this is a toast to my friend, my dear friend, mentor, Stovey Brown, who we lost this week after a tremendous battle with ALS.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Jonathan. May he rest in peace. I got a bunch of notes from people today about, just how important he was to the sailing community. And unfortunately, the news came in right as we were sending the magazine to print, but we will make sure to get something into the June issue just to show how much he gave to this wider community, not just Annapolis, but
right down in Solomon's also. He was quite the individual.
Yeah. Well, good. Thanks for bringing that up. Sharp, are you going to go behind the scenes, be the man behind the curtain?
That's what I do. That's what I'm going to do. So
very good.
Cool.
All right. We'll see you in a little while. So those of you who are in our audience, thank you for being here tonight. You know, you can put a question in the comments anytime, and we will address it on the spot, or if I know that we're going to get to that question eventually, we'll just hold it, and Sharb will pop it up on the screen when we get to it. But there might be some people there that don't know Jonathan, don't know his background. So I asked him if he, even though he has a long sailing career, if he would sort of start at the beginning. And Jonathan, if you can just tell us about your sailing, how you got into sailboat racing, and that way it will sort of set the scene for why you are an expert on helping people learn how to be better crew.
Well, I'm lucky sort because I'm from a sailing family. So I was part of the family that, if you're a sailing family, you go sailing. And back in the 60s, there was not much else going on. You'd maybe do baseball one day a week, not every night. And then you'd be out on the family boat every weekend. So I was very lucky. I got to grow up at Severn Sailing Association as a junior brat there, and I went through their junior program. I also sailed on the Snipe class, which is still to this day, a fantastic two-man sailboat over there. And my time after junior sailing was to teach junior sailing, and I got to do that for 7 years there. And again, teaching sailing will really helps you become a better sailor. So after that, my father was very instrumental in small boats getting me sailing. And then my sister, Linda Stearns, who was a sailmaker at North Sails for many years and a sailmaker for a very long time. She was a big boat sailor, and she got me into big boat sailing. So I've had the ability from the beginning just to grow up through all this. So this is the easy way. If you really want to become a good sailor, start when you're 6.
Yeah.
So not everybody gets that roll of the dice. So for here, sailing in Annapolis, I've been here, sailing since the late 60s, and I've never stopped. So it's a long time at this point in 2021. And I've had I've been very lucky to cross paths with many people through the years, and I get to sail with many different folks on different race boats. But the intent of sailing is to have a really good time. You're out there enjoying the wind, the water. There's nothing else but you and that, right? And the boat. And it's pretty fun for most of us. But when you get on different people's boats, you see different perspectives of how people sail. And I've been blessed with that. So having sailed with so many different people, I'm able to see what boats are fun to sail on, what boats aren't fun to sail on, and how things should work when you hop on a boat. So giving some tips on how to get onto the right sailboat, or how to learn how to crew better, or how to be prepared to be a better crew. Maybe these are the things we'll talk about tonight, but it's the love of the sport is why we're out sailing. And we don't want to forget that. This is supposed to be a fun thing for all of us. So
yeah, well, and you race on such a wide variety of boats. I've seen you on those big, fancy rock star boats, and I've also seen you sailing on a Penguin with your daughter, and
right.
Looking even happier sailing on the Penguin with your daughter. But I know that you do sail on the full range of boats, and so anyone who is asking questions, feel free to ask a question, a dinghy racing question as well as a big boat question, because you have a very wide range of experience. So
that's correct. And for when it comes to small boat sailing, I mean, if you want to be a better sailor, let's start there. Let's just get a laser and go sailing. Yeah. Take some lessons over at J World if you want to, start to learn how to sail a big boat first. But get a little boat and go sailing. You want to be a better crew, that's the first step.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the things you want to do even before you get on a boat. Some things that you should ask when you have a chance to go sailing with a new skipper. What are some of the things you should ask that person before you get on his or her boat?
Well, my first thing is when and where. That's got to be the first question. You got to know where you're going, because the first thing you can't be is late.
Yeah.
That's the first step. Once you're there, get there early. And when you show up on a boat the first time, you have to have, and the second time and the third time and the fourth time and forever, always, you get on a boat and you have a positive attitude. You leave your office behind you. You're going sailing because you want to go enjoy yourself. Do not take your bad day with you to the water. Go out there and go enjoy yourself sailing. So when you talk to that, the skipper's called you to come sailing, you want to make sure you're listening, that this person is actually asking you to come sailing, not just I want you to come sailing and there are no questions. Well, that to me sometimes is a warning sign, because that person's just digging to get people on his boat. That might be the case. That's okay. But you need to come back with questions like, when and where, what should I bring? Some boats don't even have water on board for you. Some other boats you get on and it's the Taj Mahal and you're being taken care of like, you're going to a nice restaurant for dinner afterwards that he or she are buying for you. So you have to know who this person is. So a lot of times the other part of this, somebody has told the skipper about you. So you may want to call that person because you know who it is, because I got a call from someone, and then ask that question. What do I need to do? So you do a little background check on your skipper. Make sure they're a fun guy, fun girl, and then you'll be able to at least have an idea of what you're getting into. But again, don't be late to the boat. That's the first step.
Yeah, and I'm going to back up one step from there. Something that you said years ago to me, and you might not even remember, but we got to talking about the fact that we were putting together our Start Sailing Now materials, and we were having a crew party, and we were finding ambassadors for people who were new to sailing at our party, and you said to me, make sure to include on your list of things to do that when someone reaches out to you by email to say, these are the following races we're doing, are you available? To actually respond to the email, even if you don't know your schedule yet. That if you start the relationship by not responding to emails, your invitations are not going to keep flowing.
They stop immediately. And I know we all like to use email, but if we could pick a phone up and call and talk to the person, that if I really want you to go sailing with me, I'm calling you. And an email to you to go sailing sometimes is a bit fishy to me, but I like the conversation. But you're totally right. If you get emailed, you've got to respond.
Yeah. When I was thinking, even if you've already had a verbal agreement to go on the boat, right, and maybe the crew boss is reaching out to everybody, your dates and stuff like that you really need to actually respond to that, saying, I don't know my schedule right now, but I'll let you know when I do, but just don't go silent on them, The other thing I really like that you said, Jonathan, and this is something I hear at parties and stuff, and people say, oh, you have an invitation on a boat, wear boat shoes and bring beer. It will be great. And I think I don't like that advice. I know plenty of people who don't really want you to show up with beer. And you said some people don't even like to have water on the boat. That's why.
They like to have water, but they may not have water for you. They may not have food. Some people we're not all the same out there. And I've been on different boats where if you don't bring what you want to drink, you don't have anything to drink. And that's the extreme, but you have to know it before you get into this. Right. So normally, the water on a boat is a standard. And, I think everybody online is going, you're crazy. There's always water. Well, let's make sure there's water.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
Beer, I'm not so, that's not the necessity these days.
Anything else important you should know before you step on a boat?
Well, when you, it is gear, before, you want to ask, do you have sunblock on board? I've stopped asking that question because we have so many different sunblocks out there now, and the sun is so fierce, and we all react differently to it. And maybe I need a different sunblock than what they provide. Don't forget your sunblock. In fact, put it on before you leave the house, right? We have all finally learned that, but you should do that. You need to have your covered head. For someone like me, I have to be covered, head to toe at this point out there sailing as much as possible. So the proper gear is crucial. And whether, the other part is look at the weather coming. Know what weather you're going to sail in today. You're going to go out for 6 hours. It's going to be 85 degrees. There's no chance of thunderstorms. Chances are you don't need that giant gear bag in the car. You leave it behind, but make sure you're at least, maybe you have a long sleeve t-shirt and you have enough sunblock and you have head coverage and you've got proper shoes. Mm-hmm. But if it's going to be a rough day, you make sure you bring your gear. So
I'm famous for forgetting my gloves.
The glove situation is wearing other people's gloves on boat, especially post-COVID or in COVID, as we're getting through all this. You bring your own gloves always now. Don't even try to wear other people's gloves out there, would be my take. But, I have a pair of gloves and, I will not forget them. I'm sailing in the nude regatta next week, and that's something I can't miss. Cannot be without getting on a boat. So unless you're sailing 100 and some days a year like the Century Club guys, most of us need to wear gloves when we go sailing.
Yeah. So apparently we already have a question from the audience that Sharp thinks might fit. So let's go ahead and take it. It's the best way to find captains looking for crew and maintenance help.
Well, I think one of the first, the crew finder that you guys have is probably the best thing going, in which you probably explain better than I can.
Thank you. Yeah, SpinSheet.com. It's on the crew finder tab right on our front page.
Thank you, Molly and Jonathan. That's exactly how I responded in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, maintenance help. So I sail with a guy who will not let me help do any maintenance on his boat because he is the best guy doing maintenance in the world. So I would like to help. I ask to help often. But maintenance help, it's funny. Maintenance help can be, this is one of my answers, actually, one of the other questions I'm thinking about down the road. You always have to make sure that you can help out the crew and the skipper and that boat be better after sailing. And what do I mean by that? That means cleaning up, helping repair something, or let alone just making sure the boat's been washed at the dock. If you want to be a better crew member, you pitch in when it comes time to do the work to rig the boat, but also after sailing to put the boat away. And the maintenance sometimes is part of that. I know there's some great J35 sailors in town here, and they sail with 10 people on their boats. They're big, big Genoa driven 35 footers. And, those guys, they're the real sailors out there. They're the guys who work on their boats. They work on them all winter long, and they have to wet sand the bottom of their boats. That's maintenance. That's help. That's a wet sanding party. And if you want to really become a big part of somebody's crew, you help sand the bottom of somebody's boat. You become very, very appreciated by that skipper very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's just part of being a team player.
Actually, Peter, if you want a job this weekend, I know someone painting her hull who would be happy to put a paintbrush in your hand and get you started on maintenance for her boat. So let's back up a little bit from maintenance. Let's talk about you. You have an invitation. It's dock time, and you're early. What are some of the things you should do? Now it's time to get on the boat and go racing.
So I get on the boat and, I check, first thing is I go to the skipper. And if I don't know the skipper, sometimes that happens. You don't know who the person is you're getting on a boat. So you make sure you find out who that is, and you do not assume anything. It could be anybody on that boat, could be the skipper of the boat. You just don't, and then, so you have to go to each person that's there and you introduce yourself with your name, and you get them to say their name to you, because name recognition during a boat race or during practice or just getting to know people is really important. Mm-hmm. So that part of this is something, every time I get on a boat, I go and meet everybody that's there as much as I can. Mm-hmm. And do my darndest to remember everybody's name. Mm-hmm. And everybody appreciates it when you remember their name. They do. We do. I do, so that breaks that wall down of not knowing someone right away. Oh yeah. What's his name? What's her name? It's Jonathan. So, so if I know Molly, I can, remember that easily and ask a question. And then that creates that introduction. We've already met. And then you try to get involved in any conversation if it's any interest to you while on your way out to the race course. And you ask if you can help rig the boat. You don't start rigging the boat because nobody knows if you know how to rig the boat, if this is the first time for you on board. So you follow somebody, and generally it's really good to follow the bowman around, who's rigging the spinnaker sheets or the asymmetrical spin sheets and the Genoa sheets or jib sheets, and just follow how they're doing it. Ask a question or two, but be engaged. Don't just sit back in the corner going, oh yeah, I've been asked to go along and I'm not sure what to do. So take initiative and learn everybody's name. And I think that's a huge step in finding out, everybody else's name, which is part of sailing and part of socializing.
I sailed on a log canoe one time in Oxford for the weekend, and they kept forgetting my name, so they just changed it to SpinSheet. So I was, hey, SpinSheet, for the rest of the weekend, which was fine. It was good.
Works.
At least they identified me. So can you give me 3 qualities of a great crew member? on a racing boat? Actually, it could be on any boat, but a racing
Right.
boat.
It could be on a cruising boat. The positive attitude is something that is just infectious. You and everybody watching or listening tonight, we've always said, oh, Debbie Downer's been on the boat. Wow, they look lifted over, and they point over there that they're lifted, and they're just bummed they're not winning or they're not involved. So a positive attitude is the most important piece. If you're happy and positive on the boat or in a good mood, generally, that's a really good trait. Second is to, particularly if you're new, is stay in your lane. And by what I mean there is know the role you've been given and do that job. And if you start to do other people's jobs or start to talk more than when something else is happening, you're probably not staying in your lane. And you may be asked to do other things because they see that you are now very accomplished at that one role. I sail on different boats, and you see the biggest thing is when people don't stay in their lane and they start telling other people what to do, and there is a chief involved. That's when you call it too many chiefs on a boat.
Yeah.
And at that point, it does not go well. So stay in your lane. And as I said earlier in the maintenance part, always be a huge part of the after sailing part of cleaning up. Be part of the team putting the boat away. Sitting there and drinking a beer while the rest of the crew puts the sails away or coils lines, that is not that's not that team player that everybody looks for. So just be engaged with the rest of the crew and what everybody's doing. So if you do all those things, you will be successful at sailing and at crewing.
And I guess that also applies to what you said before about showing up early.
It is part of that, and it shows the initiative that you're interested, that you're making the time. Every skipper understands that you are taking the time to go sailing with them, and they appreciate it. So you appreciate it too because they asked you. You want to be there. If you didn't want to be there, you wouldn't go. So it's pretty key for that.
Well, so our audience comes and goes in these shows. So for anyone who is just coming in here, we're talking to Jonathan Bartlett from North Sails about being a better crew member while racing on other people's boats. And so feel free to put any questions you have for him in the comments. And we were talking about great qualities of a crew member. Let's talk about, bad crew. What are some things, not bad crew, but some things you should avoid doing? You just mentioned one of them that would be going outside your lane. Are there any other things that you should avoid doing when you're crewing on someone's boat? And you're new to it, right? To this crew.
So, not being engaged is really something. Now, if you have I'm going to turn this around a little bit because there are some boats where skippers are a little boisterous and a little loud, and people can get intimidated by a loud person. And I am thinking more about how do I deal with, as a crew member, how do I deal with that loud skipper? Because I'm on its boat, I can't just jump off and swim away. So I have to deal with it. And so I look at it like that. I think most crews have to be really good listeners, right? So if you're a good listener and you see the situation developing, you don't need to be, you don't need to interact with that loud guy. You need to just do your role and just hope that they get through it. You don't need to escalate it for them. So try not to do that. So escalation of, and a bad crew will escalate the situation because now his or her feelings are hurt and yells back at the skipper and then raises the level of anxiety on the group. So we don't need to do that. The other thing that you don't, again, being engaged is so key to this. If you are just sitting in the corner, I don't want to call it bad, but it's not what's necessary on the boat. What we need is people being engaged.
Well, I could look back at some of my racing experiences. And I used to race a lot more than I do now, but I think I definitely showed up late. I probably didn't have much initiative at all. I was just hoping they would tell me what to do. I didn't go out of my way to learn a new position or have really anybody teach me anything. I think that I was sort of, I kind of didn't know the rules of engagement. I didn't grow up in sailboat racing, and I guess I was just sort of waiting for someone to tell me. And that was when I learned that there really are all these sort of, there are some unspoken etiquette rules in sailing that I didn't know about, coming from the Midwest and, day sailing and not racing. So
One of
no,
the
I think
things,
I made a lot of the mistakes.
well, don't think I didn't either. There are a lot of things that, again, the expectations the owner or the skipper sets when they talk to you on the phone, this is where it all begins. And they set this is a tactician talk, they have to set the crew up for success, not failure. And telling you what the expectations are from the get-go when you step on the boat and sit down, or when you're on that initial phone call, really, this is what I really am looking from you, for you to do. And I think a couple of weeks ago, you said you had Keith and Emily from Jubilee on, and I know Keith is superb at setting expectations for his crew members. Exactly.
They're great. That's why I invited them on the show, because I'd done the Solomon's race with them, and that was back when Solomon's was an overnighter. And I stepped on the boat, and the first thing Keith said was, "Listen to Emily. She's your boss." And then Emily, this is the job you're going to do on the boat. If you need help, this is your masked man. He's going to help you. And this, you're going to. They set the expectations so clear. I was never wondering if anything was okay that I did or didn't do. They just explained what they needed from me, and they were fun and competitive. It was a really nice experience. And so, yeah,
that's really good leadership, and that leadership coming from the skipper always sets the tone for how a boat will perform. And so the stronger the leader, especially the leaders that, in amateur racing, the leaders that are not screamers, but are very skilled sailors that have a very skilled following, good sailor following. Those are the reason as people are so successful, because of their leadership ability before you get to the boat, because you know what you're doing before you get on board. So it's almost like you're interviewing the skipper when they call you. So the more they discuss the boat, the better off you're going to be. So if it's a phone call that says, we'll just be there at 9:15, we'll see you then. That to me it's not a warning signal. It's just like, well, it's not spelled out. It is only just a time. So the more we can get out of that one phone call, the better we'll be prepared.
I see that we have a comment there. A shout out to Ben Cooker out of on Kalanectus out of Hampton, Virginia. It took me as crew decades ago and led me to a life of sailing. That's nice to hear. I know that he's a successful skipper, Ben. Maybe we ought to do a little crew interview with him for a future SpinSheet article. So thanks, Scott. Thanks for cluing us in about a good skipper. Let's see. Can you give me some specific examples of impressive things you have seen crew members do over the years that maybe were above and beyond, or just something that stuck in your head like that is a good crew member? They just did something.
So when I think of a crew member, I think of a team. And if I think of a team, I think of teamwork, the J122, which I've sailed many times with. These guys are from North Carolina and Georgia and here in Maryland. And that is the essence of, it's funny, the boat name is perfect for that group, because everybody does their jobs. Every single maneuver is always the same job is done by the whole team. And it has, as a tactician, I've been empowered, and I think other sailors on this call will say, yeah, you're right. When you sail with a really good group of a team, and you become very, very confident in their maneuvers and their skill set. So for their abilities all put together, make it a very potent 1-2 punch. So you can go into any mark on any jibe to do any sort of takedown. And that's the culmination of all the crew, the entire crew on a 10-person boat working together to make that happen. So it's not just, for me, that's really impressive, because that empowers the tactician to be able to do what he needs or she needs to do at the right time to win a race. And that is with almost any of these boats I race on. If the crew is able to do all that, their jobs, not perfectly, but really well. Perfect is really hard to get, right?
Yeah.
But really well, then, you're hitting on everything. And, if the boat's fast and everything else is done right, you have a really good result. So for me, it's always a collective. That the one crew member doesn't make the team; it's the whole group that does. And I'm always grateful to get to sail with folks like that. And John White's team is, obviously the same type of deal. You get on that boat, you have the same. All skill sets are filled, but even with new people, you put them in positions to succeed. You don't put them in spots to fail. And as a skipper, that's what you have to do with new crew. Just don't make it too hard that it can't do it.
We had a whole show talking about crew chemistry, and I know I didn't have a preset question on this, and I think when you're talking about a whole team really gelling like that, you're talking about good chemistry. And that's the kind of team I think we all want to be on, but I think, it can be intimidating hopping on a crew that's already been together for many years or that sort of thing. What do you have to say about crew chemistry? How to find it? How to cultivate it? For the skipper, I know there are a couple skippers out there, and they want to have that kind of crew too.
Yeah, this is the holy grail of sailing, is finding that team. It's really hard to answer, because some boats that I've seen great chemistry on, the personalities of people are so totally different from one another. And I used to think it had to be people that were all similar. It's not the case. The similar goal, though, is the result of going out and sailing well. So, that's the first thing. I mean, everybody is out there for a reason. And if it's to have fun and get along, great. But if it's to win the races, even better. But everybody has to be focused on that same part. And then there's a respect level. People have to show proper respect to each and every person on a sailboat. There should be no one yelling at one another. Everybody is trying their hardest. And chemistry is not built when people are screaming at one another, or if one person is screaming. So it's really hard to build upon a good crew when there's always a drama going on. It's around the next mark rounding. So you have to have faith in everybody, and you have to have respect. And if you do that, then chances are you're starting to create a little chemistry, and people come back. I'd be interested in in knowing how many people sail with boats with more than 4 people, that it's always the same people coming back every time, because that's where chemistry starts. If you keep having a rotation of 5 or of an 8-person boat and 17 people sail on it, it's hard to get a chemistry created. So it's a tighter team. It's hard to do, because we all want to go racing, and a lot of races. That's a lot of commitment. So it's hard to do the bigger the boat. And sometimes it's just a matter of picking the events in advance and getting your team together, and then hoping they all can do all those events.
When you're first talking to someone about racing on their boat, is it is a weird question to ask them how competitive they are, or what their goals are? And you might find you're on a boat that's a little bit more competitive than what you wanted, or a little less competitive than what you wanted. I know some people who end up on a boat like our boat stinks, and all I want to do is drink beer. I want to go win. I need to be on a more competitive boat. Is there a good way to ask that, or?
Well, there really isn't. You almost have to get out there and find out for yourself. But you're finding out what you like too. Mm-hmm. You get out there and you go sailing, you're like, well, I do like this, but I would like to be more competitive, and everybody's really nice. So that decision then is made. Do I help get some other folks that are maybe a little better sailors on board with me, or should I start looking for something new? Mm-hmm. And again, the owner, his or her direction they're the leader here. They are the one. And they have to, they've set the tone for what they want. So you kind of have to understand what they're going to do and what they want. So you can ask, but I think you'll see it. I don't think you need to ask.
Yeah, I see that. So if there are any new racing sailors out there, how do you know if you're a fit or not a fit on a particular boat? Is that just one of those things you feel in your gut, or
Well, first, if you got off the boat and you said, I had a great time, that's fantastic, right? That's what the whole idea is. We're all supposed to have fun. Second part is they ask you back. So I got asked back. I really enjoyed it. I'll be back. So it's a simple, for me, it's very easy, black and white here. And for me, I love getting asked to come back racing on boats, because that means that it was a good, positive experience. People enjoyed it. But occasionally it happens where you're not asked back, and you have to look into it and say, well, why didn't I get asked back? And you want to figure that out. Just like losing a boat race, you want to know why I lost. Not know is terrible. It's the unknown. So we want to figure it out.
Yeah. But I wonder how many of those conversations take place, when you sort of feel like you got ghosted by your racing crew, and you have the guts to go back and say, it would help me to know what I did wrong, right? Those are hard conversations to have.
Yeah, and I've seen those conversations happen, and they are hard. And it's again, got to have respect for people. You got to tell them the truth if there's a situation that wasn't right. And again, you want to be treated like you want to be treated well too. So,
yeah. So, we're getting close to last call. Anyone has any questions for Jonathan? Feel free to pop them into the comments. And I'm just going to ask, do you have any final thoughts on how to gain more skills to become a better racing sailor?
The easiest way to get better is to sail on different people's boats. The easiest way to get better, I think I started with this, is to own a laser or a sunfish or something and go sailing on your own and really become a better sailor, yourself. But the ability to sail with different people and to learn from different people is the quickest way to picking up more skills and getting more confident. And start sailing now. I think you brought it up earlier. That is, the point of it is you need to sail with, as many folks as possible, but don't just take the first person that asks. Talk to them. The SpinSheet crew finder thing, the party in the past, and I'm not sure how that's going to happen this year, what you're doing with that, but that is a key event always for people to get involved in this sport and meet people, and whether it's done by Zoom this year or how you guys are going to do it. But we're
going to wait till we can do it in person again. In the meantime, we have our online crew finder. But
gotcha.
We're kind of hoping that we're going to have an opportunity, even though it's going to be late in the season. We're still hoping we might have an opportunity to get some people together face to face, and because it's really nice to meet someone face to face.
It is.
The way that they do it at our crew party, when there might be someone from the GA30 fleet with a clipboard they're taking names and numbers. They are really want crew. And then there are people there who really want to crew on someone's boat. It's a wonderful way to get started. We really miss that party. And so when we have a chance to have it live, we're definitely going to do it again.
I mean, to me, it's the essence of how to get it. It's the easiest way to get into sailing in Annapolis and in Virginia and, Northern Bay. It is. And it's missed. I'll tell you that. So,
yeah. Well, we miss it too. For anyone who doesn't know about our crew parties, we usually have, 3 or 4 of them. The big one being in Annapolis, and we have a pretty big one down in Hampton. We have one in Solomons, and we've done a Baltimore edition. And last year we did a Baltimore happy hour right before COVID hit, and we were just about to do a DC happy hour right before COVID hit. So anyway, look out to 2022, but hopefully we'll at least have some sort of a physical Annapolis event before sailing season ends. But, it's like anything else. It all depends.
Right.
Sharp, do we have any final questions or comments or anything we want to pop up there?
Nancy L, I think if I'm pronouncing your last name right, she was asking just about, and you kind of answered it, just about how you find, that more relaxed crew, safety conscious boat, with a focus on teamwork versus winning. I think we covered that, but I didn't know if you had any other thoughts on, for a newbie, how to find that.
That can happen. You can contact, we do have Wednesday night racing going on in different rivers all over the state and down in Virginia. And it's hard to tell because when every place it goes, very competitive racing and everybody is competitive, but some of the sites are lower key on racing.
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, I can't say which ones.
Yeah.
But there are. And if you want to reach me offline, or maybe you, Sharp, offline to get, I could work on that to get that answer, because there are some fleets that are lower key.
Yeah. And I would also recommend keeping your eyes on the club section of SpinSheet.
Yeah.
So Round Bay Racing Association, for example, they often put a little blurb in SpinSheet that they like to take people casual racing on a weeknight and meet some people and just go out there and be outside and watch the sunset and do some sailing. West River is also another good spot for that. Friday night beer can racing out of Eastport Yacht Club can be a little more key. And there are plenty of low-key boats in Annapolis Yacht Club racing too. So, feel free to reach out to us. But do keep your eye on the club notes section of SpinSheet, because there are some racing clubs that are really, have that kind of spirit, I think, with their racing. And Jane Durden put in a comment. She said, Jonathan, she so appreciates your gender neutral language. And that wasn't something specific that you said, but it was nice because she's a skipper. She has a boat. She does some racing. And Bob Dunn had a really nice comment in here too, where he said, leave your ego at the dock. I like that.
Oh,
and also sail with the pro every chance you get. That's
sometimes that's
not
good,
always up to you if you're a crew member, but
depends. Well, very good. I think that's about what we have, and we can wrap this up. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us today.
As always, great to be here with you guys.
Yeah,
I know, Jonathan, thank you for sharing your knowledge. I'm really excited for sailing season this year. I know everybody else is, and some people were very disappointed about that the wind didn't cooperate much on Wednesday, but we have next Wednesday. And as we were saying before we went live, like, are a bunch of spectators going to show up this year like last year? I don't know. Everyone is starting to get a social life again, so it will be interesting to see.
I can't wait to see how many boats we have out for Wednesday night next week. It's going to be, and then the nude on Friday. I mean, this is sailing season's here.
Yeah,
that's right. So we do not have a SpinSheet happy hour next weekend. It's nude regatta weekend, but the following week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that May 7th? We do have one on May 7th, and it's how to organize a great team racing regatta. And we're going to have some of the folks from SSA talking about how they organized and how they run the Olivia Constance Team Race Invitational. And that's been a really successful, nationally recognized regatta. So I'm going to talk about team racing in a couple weeks. So
great. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to throw you in the green room, but stick around because there's always a party in the green room.
Always a party in the green room. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Very good. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us for this edition of SpinSheet Happy Hour. Again, I want to thank Defender for sponsoring this episode. And I'm going to pop up the link again into the comment section where you can investigate the B&G's Vulcan 12. Check it out. Seriously, if you can pick this up for less than $1,000, that's a pretty darn good deal. But until next time, we'll see you on May the 7th. We appreciate you tuning in here, and we hope to